This is Seeking the Word. This is a project where I'm reading through the Bible from beginning to end, trying to stay close to what the text actually says as I move through it. In this episode, we're looking at part 2 of Genesis 18, verses 16 through 33. We'll begin with the text. The men rose up from there and looked towards Sodom. Abraham went with them to see them on their way. Yahweh said, "Will I hide from Abraham what I do? Since Abraham will surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed in him. For I have known him to the end that he may command his children and his household after him, that they may keep Yahweh's way, to do righteousness and justice, to the end that Yahweh may bring on Abraham that which he has spoken of him." Yahweh said, "Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go now and see whether their deeds are bad as reports which have come to me. If not, I will know." The men turned from there and went towards Sodom, but Abraham still stood before Yahweh. Abraham came near and said, "Will you consume the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous within the city? Will you consume and not spare the place for the 50 righteous who are in it, so that the righteous should be like the wicked? May that be far from you. Shouldn't the judge of all earth do right?" Yahweh said, "If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sake." Abraham answered, "See, now I have taken on myself to speak to the Lord, although I am dust and ashes. What if there will lack 5 of the 50 righteous? Will you destroy all the city for lack of 5? He said, "I will not destroy the city if I find 45 there." He spoke to him yet again and said, "What if there are 40 found there?" He said, "I will not do it for the 40's sake." He said, "Oh, don't let the Lord be angry, and I will speak. What if there are 30 found there?" He said, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." He said, "See, now I have taken it on myself to speak to the Lord. What if there are 20 found there?" He said, "I will not destroy it for the 20's sake." He said, "Oh, don't let the Lord be angry, and I will speak just once more. What if 10 are found there?" He said, "I will not destroy it for the 10's sake." Yahweh went his way as soon as he had finished communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. The passage opens in motion, men rising, turning, and moving towards Sodom, then shifts abruptly into Yahweh's internal speech without any transition marker. The narrative moves from visible action into unannounced divine deliberation. Yahweh's speech is layered through repeated "Yahweh said" statements, breaking what could be a single declaration into multiple segments. Each segment introduces a slightly different emphasis, creating a measured, stepwise progress of speech. There is a contrast within Yahweh's words between prior knowledge, "I have known him," and investigative intent, "I will go down now and see," placing certainty and inquiry side by side within the same sequence. Verse 22 repositions the scene physically. Some depart while Abraham remains, but does not restate the content of Yahweh's prior speech. The narrative anchors the shared space without repeating or clarifying what Abraham has heard. From verse 23 onward, the structure becomes highly repetitive, built around a fixed exchange pattern. Abraham proposes a number, and Yahweh responds with a consistent formula tied to that number. Alongside the numerical pattern, Abraham's speech includes repeated qualifiers about speaking, references to himself, to permission, and to restraint that recur at key points in the sequence. As I sit with this passage, one of the first things that stands out is that shift right at the beginning. The text moves from something very physical, people standing, walking, heading towards a place, and then suddenly it drops into Yahweh's thoughts. There's no transition, it just happens. And once we're inside that, we're given access to something that Abraham isn't clearly given access to. The text never says he hears it. There's no moment where it's directed to him. But then Abram steps in anyway. So his first line doesn't really feel like a response. It feels more like he's stepping into something that's already in motion. And the way he frames it stands out. Yahweh's words are about outcry and sin, about going to see. But Abraham doesn't pick up any of that language. He introduces something different. Will you consume the righteous with the wicked? That's a shift. He separates the situation into categories that weren't being used before. And once he does that, the whole conversation follows that track. The earlier language disappears. No one goes back to the outcry. No one No one returns to, I will go down and see. Everything becomes about numbers, about how many might be found. But even with the shift, the earlier frame doesn't really go away. It's still underneath everything. The numbers only matter because that investigation is already in motion. So the conversation changes on the surface, but it's still resting on what came before. Then there's the pattern itself. The repetition is very tight. Abraham speaks, Yahweh answers. Then Abraham adjusts and Yahweh answers again. At first the numbers move in smaller steps, 50, 45, 40. Then they start to move more quickly, 30, 20, 10. That change in pace stands out. It feels like Abraham starts cautiously, then moves more quickly once he sees how the responses are coming back. But even as he does that, he keeps qualifying himself. I am dust and ashes. Don't let the Lord be angry with me. I will speak just once more. Those lines keep showing up. So there's this mix of boldness and restraint at the same time. He keeps pressing forward, but he keeps pulling himself back as he does it. And then it stops. That's the part that really sticks with me. It doesn't trail off. He says, I will speak just once more, and then he does. And that's it. There's no attempt to go lower. No 5, no 1. It just ends at 10. And that feels intentional. Like he reaches a point where he knows he said what he can say. Then the passage just closes the same way it opened, with movement. But it's different movement. At the beginning, Abraham is walking with them, sending them on their way. At the end, Yahweh goes his way, and Abraham returns to his place. It mirrors the opening, but now everything that just happened sits in between those two movements. And what stands out is that there's no outcome stated. Nothing about Sodom, nothing about what happens next. The conversation ends, and the scene ends with it. So it feels complete as a conversation, but doesn't resolve the larger situation. It just leaves it there. And that leaves me sitting in that place. Like the conversation is finished, but the question hasn't played out yet. That's where I'll leave the passage for this episode. And this is Seeking the Word.